face in your face.
What the hell is going on down there?
Welcome to my channel again. Thanks for tuning in. And today I'm going to talk about macros. And you might ask yourself, what are macros? Macros are standing up for macronutrients. And macronutrients are basically the mother and basically the basic of all of those calories that you eat throughout your days. So we might ask yourself, what are macros? Macros are built of proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. And today in this video, I actually took it in 4 cuts to actually kind of explain for you, okay, what is basically an REE and TEEE, which is one of the basics of understanding the macros. I will explain to you what that is. On cut 2, we're going to talk about your protein. Cut 3, we're going to talk about your fat. And the last but not least, your carbohydrates. And by the end of the video, you're going to have basically a list of the number of the calories of each one of these 3 things: proteins, carbohydrates, and your fat, of how much of them you need to eat throughout the day, depending on your goals. So, without any hesitation, let's get right into it. And by the way, we're gonna have a guest today with ourselves. His name is Joe. Joe is a very nice guy. We're gonna use him as an example for our calculations. Joe is 25-year-old. He's 75 kilogram and he's 180 centimeter and he's 20% body fat, and he would like to lose weight. So we're going to use him as a sort of example. So maybe at home, grab a piece of pen, a paper, write all of these stuff down with me, or try to calculate it with me, pause the video, calculate with me. So by the end of the video, you can calculate your own macros. And I hope this video is just like putting everything into a simple, sweet explanation, so you don't need to search more and waste time on it anymore. All right? Okay. You might ask yourself, what is REE and TDEE? Okay, REE is your resting energy expenditure. This is basically the energy that your body needed throughout the day if you just don't do anything and just lay in the bed. That's it. And if you just lay in the bed, your body needs this energy to keep it functioning and keep rolling. So you have to calculate, first of all, your rest energy expenditure. Once we calculate our rest energy expenditure, since we're not all, lazy people who are laying in bed always, so we definitely burn some calories throughout our day. So for that, we need to understand TDEE. We need to calculate TDEE, and TDEEs are total daily energy expenditure. And TDEE is basically your REE times the amount of activity that you have throughout your day. And that is basically the amount of calories you need throughout the day, varying depending on your goal. So we're gonna get into it. It's a little bit of mathematics, but very simple, very easy. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about Joe here. All right, Joe is 25-year-old, as I said, 75 kilogram, 180 centimeter, 20% body fat, and he wanna lose weight. All right, so for REE, you need 10 times the weight of the person in kilogram plus 6.25 times height in centimeters minus 5 times the age in year plus 5 for males. Okay, this is the formula for males, guys. And for females, the same formula all the way until minus 161. This is for females. So for females, you definitely need to subtract 161. Okay. And the unit of this will be in calories. As I said, REE is your rest energy expenditure. That basically means this is the basic amount of energy you need throughout the day for your body to function, for your body to keep rolling, keep moving. And this is basically all of the things if you just sit down, lay in your bed all day long and not do anything. Okay? So this is talking about REE. So let's, for an example, calculate Joe's REE. For that, I need my calculator. All right. Okay. 10 times his weight, which is 75. I'm going to write it down. So 10 times 75, then plus 6.25 times his height. What is his height? 180 centimeters minus 5 times his age is 25, and plus 5 at the end. So if you just put it in your calculator, 10 times 75 plus 6.25 times 180 minus 5 times 25 plus 5. Let me check if I did it all correct. 6 times 25, 10 times 75 plus times 180 minus 5 times 25 plus 5. Exactly. So for Joe, his resting energy expenditure is going to be 1,755 calories. Okay, this is his basically resting energy expenditure if he doesn't do anything throughout his day. Okay, all right. But as I said, since we're not all being lazy and sitting in our bed, what do we have to do? We have to understand our total daily energy expenditure. That basically means we're gonna multiply REE, the number that we just calculated up here, times 1.3 to 1.7. This is a range, guys, okay? This is not minus. This is a range, depending on your activity. If you have, let's say, I would say a majority of us are people who work in offices or are not really active throughout our day. Therefore, I would actually like times it by 1.3. But if you're a person who's super active and who's basically on the go every day or running around and doing stuff, I would go for probably still 1.5, or if you're really active, go for 1.7. But at the end of the day, I like to usually go for 1.3 since we are not really that active. Okay, so again, depending on your level of activity, if you have light activity, go for 1.3, 1.4. And if you have, like, let's say medium to intense, go for 1.5, 1.6, or 1.7. So let's say our Joe, our average Joe here, is not a very active guy. He's a moderate active guy. So we're gonna multiply by 1.4, for example. So let's say his REE, which is 1,755 times 1.4. Let's just give it into your calculator. So this gives me 2,457 calories. All right, so these 2,457 calories is the total daily energy expenditure of our Joe. This is basically the energy that he needs throughout the day in order to maintain his weight. This is very important, guys. In order to maintain his weight at 75 kilogram, he needs to consume this amount of calories throughout his day. If he consumes less than that, as we see in this area here, if we move along the line here, from the maintain and TDEE, if we move along to the left, we're gonna lose weight. However, if you move along to the right, which means using more calories, not using more calories, increasing your calorie intake, you're gonna actually gain weight. You're gonna bulk lean, okay? So this is one thing. The amount that usually people are talking about is between, let's say, 300 to 500 calories. I personally would say, I'm not the one who says, oh, I all know it at all, but I would say go for 500 calories. And if you want to lose weight, subtract 500 calories out of your total daily energy expenditure. This number that we got here, if you want to maintain your weight the way it is, just take that number of TDEE. I told you, you can just maintain your weight. And if you want to gain weight, go for TDEE plus 500 calories. You know, as I said, guys, this is kind of like a try and error thing. You need to understand it for yourself. And for the beginning, I would say go for 500 calories for sure. All right, let's calculate it for our average Joe. So if Joe would, let's say, 2,457 calories minus 500 calories, he's gonna end up at 1,957 calories per day. So this is the amount of calorie he needs to consume in order to lose weight. I will give you a formula by the next video on how much of, like, let's say, how to calculate those weight loss per week, and then we're gonna talk about it. But if he keeps using this amount of calories throughout his day, he will start losing weight. But if he, let's say, if you want to gain weight, if you would go for this number, 2,457 plus 500, you will start gaining weight and start building muscles. So if you're a person who is interested in building muscle and you definitely want to hit the gym and you want to work out, your area that you need to focus on must be here. Definitely. If you're a beginner and you're a person who is not really, let's say, you don't have a really high amount of like body fat percentage, I would say definitely you need to gain weight, you need to start building muscle up, which is going for calorie surplus. This is another terminology. If you go on top of this limit of maintenance, it's called calorie surplus. You heard it quite a lot as well. What is calorie surplus? That means the amount of calorie intake that you have is higher than the thing that you need actually. So this is calorie surplus, and calorie deficit is basically if you go along the line in this area, and because you're taking less calories throughout your day. Okay guys, so in order to reach his goal, he needs to have 1,957 calories per day. All right, so we covered REE, we covered TDEE, and we covered our loss and maintain and gain in order to set us up for the next goals, which is understanding your protein intake, your fat, and your carbohydrates. All right, stay tuned. Next one. Next up is going to be protein. How many grams of protein you need. In this one, we're gonna actually calculate it literally. So keep on calculating with me. And so far we calculate the REE of our average Joe. We calculated our TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure. And we also calculated what do you need to subtract or to add on that TDEE in order to achieve your goals. It could be weight loss, it could be weight gain, it could be maintenance, okay? All right. Based on that number, we're gonna slowly build up on our protein and our fats and our carbohydrates, which are gonna be the next takes. All right, for your protein, you definitely need your weight again in kilograms times again a range of 1.5 to 2.5 gram per kilogram. So that means, what basically means is like, if you are a person, is our average Joe who is 75 kilograms and he needs to understand how much of protein do I need to take per day? It's basically about this formula. However, it's very important to be careful about the scale here. All right, the scale starts from here all the way, goes up to here. It starts with 1.5 gram per kilogram and 2.5 gram per kilogram. And by the way, the opinion in fitness centers is so different about the amount of protein you need per kilogram, per pound of body weight. So it's a little bit of calculation, and also it's a little bit of, as I said again, trial and error, and feel for yourself like what do you actually need. Because why? Because 1.5 gram per kilogram is actually for the beginners, the ones that are quite unhealthy, hasn't started the gym industry still, like hasn't been to the gym already, or they're kind of new to the training and the weight room or running even, all of those things. So to emphasize that, guys, the protein is the most important one actually. I wouldn't say like it's the most important one, it's quite important, because anything that you do, anything, is breaking your muscle tissues. And in order to build muscle on top of that, I told you in the last video that you need to actually repair the muscles, and your body needs that. And how does that happen? It's through proteins. Proteins repair those things. So on the days, let's say, so many people like ask me like, do I need to take protein also like in the days that I don't train? I said, absolutely yes. In the days that you do actually train, you're not building muscles, you're actually tearing them down. You're tearing those fibers down. So muscle building happens in a regeneration phase, in a phase that you're resting. So on the days that you're resting, you need to also have your protein intake exactly as this amount that we're going to calculate it. Okay, so 1.5 gram is for those who are beginners, who are a little bit unhealthy, who are just starting out in their fitness industry, in a fitness journey. But I would probably, let's say, for a person who has, let's say, 20% body fat, that's our average Joe, I would go for 2 grams per kilogram, because you already see some abs in him. He's kind of going to the gym, he's been kind of shaped, but still a beginner. So let's go for the more secure number, 2 grams per kilogram. And if somebody who's a pro athlete and they train a lot, like they go to the gym 5 to 6 times per week, I would say definitely they need 2.5 gram per kilogram. And by the way, the thing about protein is you don't have to be worried about that, because protein, your body just intake as much as it can and just get rid of the rest if it doesn't need it. Okay, so let's calculate it, for example, for our average Joe. His weight 75 kilogram times 2 gram per kilogram, which is going to be, again, I know you might say, why don't you just calculate it, but I just want to make sure. All right, it's going to be 150 grams of protein per day. So this is the number for average Joe. Okay guys, so we're gonna write that down over here. So now we got the number of the protein that our average Joe needs. Do the same, calculate this one, and follow up the next step, which is going to be fat. Okay, next step. We already covered protein right now. Let's get into fat. How are you going to calculate your fat? All right, it's basically, again, your weight, your kilogram, times 0.65. It's a range again, to 0.9 gram per kilogram. Okay, again, what does the scale here mean? The scale is basically is a sort of way for you to understand and adjust for your diet. Okay, where do I need to allocate my fats in comparison to my carbohydrates? Okay, let's say if you're a person who loves carbohydrate, you know, you love your Brötchen, as you guys Germans call it. You love your pasta, you love your rice, you love all of those like carbohydrates, food that have it. I would say go for 0.65, okay? And because you need to have the remaining of it, the rest of it is still usable for the next carbohydrates that we're going to calculate the amount of it. So we're going to put the rest amount of calories that you're going to have for the next one. So I would say if you're a person who loves carbs, go for 0.65. Okay, times it by 0.65. If you're a person you don't really care, you're like, I don't give a fuck, like Armin, just, I don't know, I want to go for 0.8. I'm like, okay, then go for 0.8. You don't care, I'm just telling you what to do, and just do it. But if you're a person who is loving fat, and you love the butter, you love the nuts, you love the olive oil, you love all of those fatty, good fats, then it will go for 0.9 grams per kilogram. All right, let's just demonstrate you how does it look like, for example, for our average Joe in each one of these cases. And one of the things, guys, basically it depends. You have to test and try all of these things, and it's not going to be a one-night journey. You have to test and try it, and just basically go out and figure it out which one works the best for you. Some people says, I feel better when I'm on a higher fat diet than on higher carbohydrates diet. I personally feel way better when I have higher amount of carbohydrates, but I still go on phases that I try everything, that I usually have very less amount of carbohydrates. So usually carbs are better source of energy than fat. Okay, this is but depending on your body, some people says fat is actually better. And okay, so everybody's different, you have to figure it out for yourself. But let's go for Joe. Joe is being right now lonely here. So let's say Joe is 75 kilogram, right? Times it to 0.65. If you do it to 0.65, Joe is gonna last by 40 okay, grams per day. All right, but Joe is the type of person who says, you know what, I don't really care. I want to go for 0.8 grams per kilogram. And I'm like, okay, then we're going to calculate that for you. And it's going to be 60 grams of fat for you per day. And if Joe would say, I would like to go for 0.9, then you would just basically times 0.9 and you're going to end up 67 or let's say 68 grams. All right. I don't like 48. Let's actually mark it like 40. I would say let's say 49. Okay. Yeah, just excuse my scribbling here. But our average Joe is going to go for this area over here, which is 75 kilogram. Again, I'm going to write it down for you, times 0.8 gram per kilogram, which at the end is going to give us 60 grams of fat per day. Okay, what are we going to do? We're going to take this amount 60 and write it down here next to our calculations. 60 gram. All right. Last but not least, next up is going to be carbohydrates. Now we're at the last section of the video, carbohydrates, your carbs. In this section, we're going to calculate your carbohydrates. Okay, you need to understand one thing about macros that I told you at the beginning. Your macros are consisted of protein, carbs, and fat. These are the basic three essential items of macronutrients. And you have to understand this, each protein has 4 calories per gram of proteins. That means if you eat 1 gram of protein, it has 4 calories. Let's say you go today to a supermarket and you buy yourself a packet of chicken or, I don't know, let's say a packet of beans, and then you take a look at it and it says on it, on the nutrition data, okay, there's 20 grams of protein inside it. And if you would do the calculations, 20 grams, and on each gram of protein there's 4 calories, 20 times 4, there is 80 calories of protein inside that section of it. Okay, so in order to find out your carbohydrates, this is very important, guys. This last number that we got it from the TDEE, minus 500, this was our goal calorie. Okay, this is where it comes to play. You grab that number, which we had it again, I retract, 2,457 was our TDEE, based on our activity level, not REE, not our rest energy expenditure, but TDE minus 500 calories. What we got 1,957 because Joe wanted to lose weight. Now we bring that calorie per day, we put it over here. This is our goal, right? This was our goal calorie per day. Now, protein. We want to understand how many calories of protein do we need throughout the day, okay? What do we have? 150 gram times 4 calories per gram. What is it going to give us? So I need my calculator again. 150 times 4. This is going to give us 600 calories. Okay. Then for fat, each fat has 9 calories per gram. And again, we're going to do the same one. We're going to do 60 gram of fat, which we calculated in the last section, 60 gram of fat times 9 calories per gram of fat, which is going to give us 60 times 9, 540 calories. All right. There is a huge difference, guys, between fat, proteins, and carbs. Fat has, as I said, it has 9 calories per gram. And protein and carbs, both of them, they have 4 calories per gram. So it's kind of easy to remember it. Proteins and carbs, always 4 calories per gram, and fat, 9 calories per gram. All right, so now comes the simple math. What was our goal? 1,957 calorie, right? This is our goal for losing weight for Joe. Now, we have 600 calorie, 540 calorie for protein and fat. Now we're going to subtract these two from that number, which is going to be 1,000 957 minus 600 minus 540, which is going to give us 817 calories. Right? This is going to 870 calories of carbohydrates. Because again, guys, macronutrients are built of protein, carbs, and fat. We already had protein and fat. We calculated it, how many grams we need. Then we multiplied them by their coefficient, which is 4 and 9. For protein is 4, for fat is 9. We got our calorie, we added them up together, and we subtract them from 1,957, which is our goal, and we got 817. So that basically means our Joe needs to have 817 calories of carbohydrates per day, 540 calories of fat per day, and 600 calories of protein per day in order to reach his goal. And depending on your goal, as I said, guys, one thing, you need to understand this is all very, this would vary through person to person. It's not 100% like, this is the way and that's it, and it's all rigid, it's written in stones. It's not like that. So for men, I would say usually you need to track your records weekly, weigh yourself in every morning after waking up. I would say around 1 kilogram per week, depending if you want to gain weight or if you want to lose weight. And for women, 0.5 kilogram. And this is just basic, as I said, we're very generic and it depends on the person, okay? So now we got the calories though still. But you might ask yourself, yeah, but how many grams of carbohydrates do I need in order to, if you want to track it later on? And what we're going to do, we're going to grab this 817 calories divided by 4. So 817 divided by 4 is going to give us 204 grams of carbs. And that's it. Then we got our carbohydrates and we're gonna just write it down over here. I don't like 204, let's put it 205 grams. And this is basically all the macronutrients data of our average Joe. He needs 150 grams of protein per day, 60 grams of fat, and 205 grams of carbohydrates. As I said, guys, again, the reason that I wrote down those scales is because you need to understand you can play with them. You can change them once in a while. There are so many people that usually people says it's better to go for a 40-30-30 split. What does it mean? That 40% of your calorie intake should be from your carbs, 30% from your protein, 30% from fat. But there is so many different diets out there. There's keto diet, there's paleo diet, there's high protein diet, and there's low fat diet. And so you need to understand which does work for your body. But usually for a beginner, if you ask me, hey, give me something, I need to start, I need to just get going. I don't have time for all of these, let's say, itty bitty, nitty gritty stuff. That's the way to go. Try to calculate yours with these steps one by one. It's a little bit longer video, but once again, thanks for your patience. Thanks that you tuned in, and make sure to like, subscribe, and as always, if you have any question, just write it down in the comments below. Have a good one, guys. Peace.